Welcome to the Coaches Show. I'm Darrin Joins, Williamson County Schools Athletic Director. Pleased to have this week's special guests talking about tonight's WCTV Game of the Week. We've got Page head coach for the second week in a row, Coach Charles Rathbone, and Franklin's second-year head coach, Alex Melton. Gentlemen, thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
So tonight's WCTV Game of the Week is one that I would call the oldest Battle of Franklin. They hadn't played many times, but in terms of the schools being open and dating back to the first time the schools played, it's really the oldest. You know, you talk about Franklin and Centennial, but this is two Franklin schools, and you've been around a while. I'm glad this game's happened. I know we've talked about it before, starting with you, Coach Rathbone. And I know region changes it and all that kind of stuff, but I'd like to see this thing continue.
Yeah, you know, we're open for it. We enjoy playing it. You don't have to travel very far, which is a great thing. And, you know, obviously with getting buses and things like that, it makes it easy. So, you know, we're open for playing it, you know, just as long as everybody behaves on Friday nights and has a good time and doesn't do any mischief. We're good.
What about you, Coach Melton? I know you really kind of feel the same way, right?
I do. I think it's good. I think it's good for the county. I think it's good for the schools. You know, we talked a little bit about it earlier, but I think the atmospheres are great. The kids love playing against each other. So as far as I'm concerned, I'd like to keep it going.
Well, I can tell you something. I mean this when I say it, that I appreciate about you guys, and most of our coaches are like this. But I do hear you guys say a lot. You sort of carry that banner of if it's good for the district, if it's good for our kids, playing these kids that are close. And Coach Melton, when you say that, you mean it. You can tell.
I do. I mean, gates are good, obviously, all the time, so that's a good thing. But yeah. I think, you know, every Williamson County school I've been a part of or been around, the student sections are great, the atmosphere is great. Yeah. When you combine those two, it just makes it that much more exciting for the kids and the students and everybody.
I agree. Coach Rathbone?
Well, you know, the other thing that we kind of don't talk about, it's easy to motivate the kids, right? You know, when they see Franklin on the schedule, they're automatically motivated for that game. You know, and I'm sure it's the same way at Franklin for Page, that nobody wants to lose to an county, and it's kind of hard to be if you're not for doing what's right for the county and the schools and helping out other kids at other schools. It's hard to really say that you're there for the kids, and you know that's kind of something I take pride in. I want to be there for all kids, not just my kids.
Well, and you both live that, that's for sure. Good to get the first week out of the way, I'm assuming. You know, one thing I always thought as a coach, I want to get your guys' opinion on this, and we'll start with Coach Melton. I always feel like when you finally play a game, you've got these feelings about your team, but you're usually never as good as you think you are or as bad as you think you are. There's things you're like, okay, we thought we were better in this area, but we thought we were worse in that area. Is that true?
It is true. I mean, you know, you get 7-on-7s in the summer. Of course, that is what it is, you know, and it's hard to know what you're going to get out of kids until you turn the lights on and they go up against, you know, really good competition that Friday. So it's good to see. And you do have a better understanding after week one, kind of what you have and what you need to work on.
Coach Rathbone?
Yeah, you know, it's scrimmages only give you so much because you're only doing so much in scrimmages. So, I mean, in that first game, it's all out there. You know, you're putting everything you got out there that you're going to run, that you're going to play, that you're going to try to execute, and you're going to get after it because you want to win that first one. So, I mean, it's good to get it over with. It's a high stress level getting it over with. Now we're getting a groove and start playing the season.
And I think maybe in your sport, as much as any sport, because you've got such fewer events. I mean, you're only guaranteed 10.
Right.
That's it. And with COVID lately, it's been guaranteed a few maybe.
Right.
You never know. But I feel like with your sport, again, as much as any, because you do have a week at a time. There's only a few of them. What Coach Rathbone talked about, that breaking down what happened in week one with your team and the opponent, that game planning part of it seems to be as maybe big a deal in football as any sport.
It is. It's a huge part of it. I mean, you've got, you know, like you said, you don't have many opportunities. You've got to make the most of each opportunity. You have a week to prepare. Sometimes you got to be careful not to try to overthink things.
Right.
But it's good to have that time to do. It's good to have, you know, film to watch, and you know, we all agreed to trade our last two films, so we get stuff on each other, and they're watching us, we're watching them, and trying to put a plan in place that the kids can execute.
Coach Rathbone, you like that part of it, that that figuring out, hey, here's what our team needs to do, but we got to be worried about the other team too, that scheming part, so to speak?
Yeah, I do. I mean, because you call plays and you call your defenses based off tendencies. You know, if you see them line up in one formation and they're running 99% of the time, then obviously you want to try to call a defense to stop the run. So I enjoy that aspect of it. You know, I enjoy teaching that aspect to the kids and trying to figure out the best way to get them to soak it in and to really learn the calls when you see that formation. And, you know, we got a couple of good guys that really enjoy doing that as well. You know, our linebackers just eat up film. You know, we watched maybe 4 or 5 hours already this week just with our players just to kind of get what they're trying to do. You know, hopefully we know what they're trying to do. So.
Well, talk about that a little bit, Coach Rathbone. I think the way teams watch film is so different now, especially with teams that are large like you guys. You're going to break it up. You're not necessarily going to have everybody in there together. You're going to break it up by position. You're going to break it up by offense and defense. Talk about how that works for you guys in terms of the way you watch film.
Well, we started something a little different this year. We come in on early Sunday mornings before church, and we lift, and then we'll watch about an hour, 45 minutes to an hour of film, and we'll watch it together as a team. Then throughout the week, we'll break out in our individual groups and linemen, DB, linebackers, whatever, and we'll kind of watch it, you know, where we got more of a one-on-one setting with the players. And then that's when we'll start trying to put in all of our calls and that type of thing on a Monday.
Coach Melton, I'm wondering this too in terms of that film watching. Do you ever take a guy or two who are sort of your leaders of those positions or that side of the ball, watch a little extra with them and try to get them to talk to the rest of the team, or is it pretty much by unit or by position?
We do it by unit a lot, and then we'll take quarterbacks. Sometimes we'll watch individual. O-line will come down sometimes and watch individual in small groups, you know, but most of the time we're either in a large group or that we break out in individual position groups. How we do it.
Fascinating. It really is. And with things, I mean, obviously with Huddle, it's
Right.
changed a lot.
Right. Yeah, they can watch it anytime. Yeah.
Let's talk a little game history. So last year, Page, it was the first win for Page in the history of this series, 28-0 win at Franklin. Franklin now leads the series 5-1. Again, last time you played was years ago. Starting with you, Coach Rathbone, your players, and I know the answer to this, but I just want to talk about it a little bit. They're going to react to this game a lot like a league game because it's a county game, right?
Yeah, you know, and either way, win or lose after this game, the challenge for us becomes getting them up next week, you know, for the game that really matters, the regional game. So they, you know, like we talked about earlier, they want to win. They want to get out there and compete. They want to prove that they belong. You know, Franklin is traditionally a powerhouse, and Coach Melton's got them on the way back up now with what they did with Riverdale last week. And our guys know they got to show up and play. And it's always a challenge when you play the Franklins and the Indies and the Ravenwoods and Brentwoods. You know, we kind of take pride in playing those teams hard and playing on to a good game.
So, Coach Rathbone, let's talk about that a little bit more. So, and we're not talking about Spring Hill specifically, but certainly that game. Are you saying that the Franklin game and the Fairview game, because it is WCS, can maybe feel more important to the players because of the proximity and familiarity with the people they're playing? Is that true?
You know, again, we've only had this schedule for 1 year, but last year we got down to Spring Hill early, and we were just playing horrible the first quarter. So it took us till second quarter before we started clicking a little bit, and I think that was a little bit of a hangover from Fairview and Franklin, and that's what we got to get these kids out of and get them week to week. And they did a better job as the season went along with it. That was an eye opener, but this is a new group, new team.
And Coach Melton, probably not quite as big a deal for your team because the league you are in is a WCS league. So it feels pretty much the same as those games, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I hope we approach them all the same way. I mean, it's an opportunity to compete for us. It's a Friday night, so you know, whether it's Page or Brentwood or whoever. I mean, it's not a region game, but it's county. The lights are on. We try to approach it the same way every time.
Do you think because of those 10 games, Coach Melton, that it should be easier to pull that off versus playing a 20-game season in another sport?
Just being ready each week, just not having as many opportunities. I think so. I mean, you've got, you know, Friday night ends, you've got Saturday, Sunday, you've got 7 days to get ready to play again. And so, like I said earlier, I think it makes them that much more important because there's not as many opportunities, and it makes you appreciate every opportunity you got. I mean, with the game of football, you're you're always one play away.
Yeah.
And that's in any sport. I mean, and so you've got to approach it that way too, I think. But
no question.
Yeah.
You know, the thing I've always loved and appreciated about football, and people in the schools can deny this, but it's the truth. The way the football season goes, it tends to be the way the school year goes. If football gets off to a good start and people are excited about it, it seems like the school year just works that way. It seems to me that way anyway.
I think it has an effect. Yeah, I think it. But you know, even last year with our group, our students are great, our faculty's great, our administration's great, and the support last year was great. And the kids kept working, and the excitement, as far as I could tell, was still. They were there every week, cheering, being loud, and supporting those kids and our players, and the players feed off that stuff. So it's been great. And I've been there 1 year, but that part of it's been really good. But I think you're right. I think it. You know, if you're having success, it continues to flow through your school, I think.
Yeah. Coach, agree with that?
Absolutely. It's kind of like an old man getting a cortisone shot in his knee. You know, he got a little extra pep in his step for the next few days. Anytime you inject energy and winning through a football season, you know, you got that throughout the school, which makes it fun.
Coach Melton, talking about your game, and then obviously, you know, you talk about history. You guys weren't necessarily involved in these games except for last year. But just talking about your team, if you look at week one, and I know you're not a moral victory guy, you're not, but based on week one, you may be as improved, at least in the first week, of any team in WCS. I mean, you guys last year in that game, you had a tough game with Riverdale, and I personally think they're better than they were last year, their team.
Well, they're always good. I mean, they do a great job. It's a great school, and the football team, athletics are great. The coaches do a great job with them. So, I mean, it's a good competition for us, obviously. You know, I thought the kids fought. That's the main thing. Their effort was great. We've got to learn to finish some of those things. Had a penalty or two at the end that didn't help the situation. But learning how to overcome those things and continue to get better, looking at film. But, you know, hopefully it built some more confidence in them. We've been trying to build confidence throughout the offseason in our scrimmages and their 7-on-7s. And, you know, through our first game there, I thought they played with confidence. They weren't intimidated. You know, we kept fighting and working. And that's the goal, is to build off last week, again this week, you know. So at practice every day and competing and those things. So we were proud of them. I thought they represented the school well. I thought they played good football. It was a fun, exciting game. The result didn't end up the way we wanted, but we'll keep working to change those results.
You know, something I can remember you saying several times last year when we talked, you liked the way your team handled what happened in the game moving forward. Did you like the way your team handled, you know, they were the right kind of disappointed after the game, they wanted to win, and then coming back Monday, they were in the right mindset too?
They were. I mean, we talked about it after the game. You know, we talked about moral victories, and, you know, people were saying, good job. You said, yes, sir, yes, ma'am, thank you. But we know what our goal is eventually. So we're not satisfied with that. You know, we'll keep working to move forward, but, you know, they weren't defeated. I think you're defeated when you quit. We didn't quit. We lost, but we weren't defeated. So we're trying to build off of that.
Coach Rathbone, good start for you. You had talked about, you had some concerns about the kicking game a little bit, and I think that was an area you weren't maybe as pleased as you were with some other parts of your game. Is that accurate to say that?
Yeah, well, in parts of the kicking game, I thought we covered kickoffs really, really well. You know, we got downfield and got after it on kickoffs. We punted. I was worried about the snap from the punter.
Yes.
You know, from the snapper to punter. I think we shored that up a little bit with Ronan. He did a great job. We just got to get our extra points and our field goals down a little bit. And sometimes that's a little bit of everything, a hold, a snap, you know, timing on the kick. And we've worked a lot of hours on that this week and got a lot of reps. So we'll see what happens Friday if we get a chance to kick. But, you know, it's always a concern. There's always something. You know, we got to shore up the penalties and quit doing some selfish things that gets those penalties. And you know, I can handle effort penalties. I can even handle false start penalties. But I can't handle, you know, look at me penalties. And that's something we've really talked a lot about this week, and hopefully we're past now.
Coach Rathbone, do you think those, any football year, unless you're just mega experienced, the penalty and special team areas are the areas that a lot of times it is a slower start for most teams? Yeah,
because you don't know about the penalties till you get into a game situation, and the special teams, that's probably the most underworked phase of the game. It's just as important as a third of the game, and probably the most underworked phase of the game. So, you know, and that falls on me. I got to do a better job and make sure we get a lot of reps in that area.
Well, talk about that too, Coach Melton, because you guys, I was fascinated to hear you guys talk in media day about, and I know some of you do, but as a group, there's not a lot of tackling to the ground. And then obviously you play a game, but I think about special teams too. I mean, the nature of kickoffs, for example, that's a train wreck.
Yeah, it's hard.
Well, you're not practicing that, not like that, right?
It's hard to simulate it. We'll do drills with handbags and stuff, hand shields and things like that. Being in your lane and stuff. Obviously, we had a mess up on that last week to put us in a bad situation, but we'll continue to work on that. But it's hard to get from that distance to get really good looks on kickoff return. We do the best we can with that. It's a little bit easier on punt and stuff because it's a little bit closer, extra point, field goal, those type of things. But we try to work it a couple days a week. We'll continue to work it and definitely need to shore up some of that for sure. Let's talk a little bit more about last week's game. Battle of 840, had game day there. It was exciting. And, something we talked about on the game day set, Coach, is I don't want to use the word anxious at all because you're a veteran coach and you have natural anxieties like we all have. You didn't seem as confident to me as you did the previous year in that game. Not that you're ever going to be exuberant or that kind of thing, but then the way you guys played, and I know you made mistakes and there's things you aren't happy with, but shutting out Fairview, first time since November 6, 2015, that was a first-round playoff loss to Stratford 39-0. To me, you played better than I thought you might play based on the way it seemed you felt before the game.
Well, I mean, anytime you got a new quarterback coming in, I know Colin got a couple of starts or played a couple of games last year, and then you're playing two freshmen, and you got a lot of sophomores that are playing on your team, then it's kind of hard to be just confident that they're going to, Again, our jobs depend on 14 to 17-year-old boys, that's tough to be confident in that. So, I mean, I was very proud of how we played, especially defensively. We left a lot out there offensively, and then it comes back to just working those reads and making the plays. But for the most part, I was really happy with Colin. He took that little check down 5-yard stop all night long that was there, and he missed a couple of throws, but he led the team in the right way. And again, I was also very happy with the offensive and defensive lines. I thought they played really well. He had time to throw the ball, and we got to shore up some things, and hopefully we get that taken care of.
Well, and you don't have to say this if you don't want to, but this is my 4th year in this position. I think it's by far the best team Fairview's had in those 4 years. I think they're really good. Yeah, and I think Coach Hughes thinks they're really good too. But going back, I mean, maybe in the last 3 or 4 years, but they've had some very talented teams. They have. And this team's talented. So, we were concerned. They had a lot of size that, you don't usually see on a 3A team. And, I was happy that our guys came out and performed the way they did. I thought they did what they were supposed to do. And, I wish we could have stuck a couple more touchdowns in there, but, maybe we saved those for this week, I hope. Well, looking at your team, Coach Rathbone, we talk about new faces, but as I was looking at names, these are names we talk about a lot on our weekly show with Tate on this particular network. Colin Hurd, obviously a name we called a lot last year. Max Collins, a guy that we talked about a lot last year. And a guy we haven't really talked about a lot in the preseason, but another name that's a name you've talked about a lot, Ethan Cunningham. Right. These are guys who've stepped up, and they're stepping up from week 1. Right, and then you go Brendan Ains and some of those guys that playing for the first time, Hazard, he didn't even have a very good game the other night, to be honest with you. So, and he knows it, and he was frustrated with himself. And then you got Knight Wilson, who had the interception. He's a freshman. And our whole offensive line, except for one, is underclassmen. So, I mean, there was a lot to build off of. So, I mean, going in that game, it was stressful. I kind of think all the TV timeouts kind of hurt us a little bit because it was hard to get a rhythm. But, you got to be happy with those young guys. Cunningham, he's a bowling ball. He runs hard, and if he gets in that open field, I don't know a whole lot of people's going to catch him. He can run a little bit. So, Hudson Amos, another kid that played great in the secondary. So, overall, it was just a really good team win. It wasn't just one person. It was a good team win. Franklin, 14-10 loss to Riverdale. Late touchdown by Riverdale with 3:42 to play. Spoiled that home opener. Coach, we talked about this a little bit before we came on air, but that game last 37-0. I mean, that was from the get-go. Yes. This one felt a lot different, and I've admitted this now to Coach Melton. It's one I thought could have gotten ugly, And really, except for some breakdowns at the end of the game, a game you probably, as a coach, are feeling like you should have won.
We had an opportunity. We've got to learn to close those out. Like I said, we had a penalty, kickoff return. Penalty set us back on our kickoff, so they got field position help there. Had an opportunity to make a play at the end to seal it, and we didn't make it. Stuff like that. So but like I said, the kids played hard. They fought. We're going to continue to build on that. Turnovers. We didn't have any turnovers to the end. Brewer had to throw one up at the end just to try to make a play. Last year we had 5. A couple of them returned for touchdowns. So stuff like that. It obviously helps. It gives you a shot. If we can, shore up our special teams, eliminate turnovers, I think we can compete and have a shot.
Well, I agree with you. You took the lead with under 6 minutes to go. You talked about Brewer Wilson, your sophomore, with a touchdown pass to senior Cooper Brown. And look at some of these stats, too, and you got to be excited about this. Brewer was 15 for 22, 147 yards. Brown, 7 receptions, 123 yards. And you have another sophomore, Jalen Spring, 19 carries, 58 yards. Now, listen, we all know you can't win in your sport. There's too many people with one class. And you certainly can't win with just sophomores. And you like your seniors. You don't have many of them, but they're leaders. They step up for you. And I know I talk about it a lot. But in terms of skill and numbers, your sophomore class is pretty special.
It's a good group. And we're just trying to keep working with them and build them, and they've gotten a lot of experience. I think Coach Rathbone would agree at this point. They're not freshmen or sophomores anymore, in my opinion. They've played, they've had one. They've got a lot of practices and scrimmages and things like that. We've got a really good senior group. We've got a good junior group that fills in and does a lot of things for us. So overall, a good group of kids.
Coach Rathbone, let's talk a little bit about region play. We talked about it earlier. Spring Hill will be your first region game. We're not worried about that. You got to worry about this week. But it is the last chance to get a little bit better before, let's face it, those games matter more. If you 0-2 and you take care of region play, it's better than being 2-0 and losing that first region game in reality.
That's right. This is a fun game, right? We're coming out going to get after each other and play hard, and hopefully the best team wins, and surely the best team. I don't want either team to lose on some fluke play, if that makes sense. I want it to come down to execution and that type of thing. So whoever wins, it really don't mean a whole lot, because next week we line up in region, and that's the game we have to win. We have to get after that, both of us, Franklin and Page. So this is, I tell our guys, just go out and have fun, play hard, get after it, leave it on the field, and then we'll come out and fix whatever we screwed up and get ready for region play next week. And
your first 2 opponents, Coach Melton, we talked about this before we came on the air. We were talking about your schedule next year. You like it. You've got tough opponents. That's who you got to play in the region. So these 2 games starting off against 2 really good opponents can only help you get ready for Ravenwood in week 3 in the first region game.
I think it helps prepare. Our scrimmages too with Lebanon and Smyrna, big physical teams, and it helps get the kids ready, I think, for our region, which is every week. So I don't plan on changing it. We'll see. Obviously we've got to reschedule, but we'll worry about that later.
Coach Rathbone, we talked about your skill players, those veterans stepping up last week, and you mentioned some newcomers as well, in particular that line. Coach Melton, I thought with your offensive line, they handled themselves pretty well, especially when you're talking about, and I know, and you guys talk about this in football all the time, maybe the ultimate team sport and having to work together, but certainly when you lose a piece like Fisher Anderson, up front, you could look at that and go, maybe we could struggle starting off, but really your line played significantly better than they did last year this time.
Yeah, they played well. They played together. That's the thing up front.
Yeah.
You've got to play together. They've got to communicate, combo what they got to combo, and work together and come off when they need to come off. So there's 5 of them up there. So they all got to work together as a unit. It's not just one person individually, obviously. Coach
Rathbone, let's talk a little bit about the defensive side of the ball. You talk about you need to make strides, but listen, they read the paper, they feel good about themselves. When your team comes off a game where they shut out Fairview for the first time since 2015, does it make it a little harder to sell that message of, hey, we got to get better defensively when you shut somebody out that doesn't get shut out?
Well, not when you turn on the film, and that's why we put a lot of time in the film, so you can show these kids, look, we were wrong here. Fairview had a touchdown called back. They dropped another touchdown. So it wasn't like we just absolutely blanked them.
Right.
Now, we played well against them, but they had some opportunities. And our kids know that. They know they got to get better. They know they got to execute a little better. We got to figure out a way to get a little bit more of a pass rush. We got to break down when we get to the pass, to the quarterback. So to be honest, that again, against a Franklin team, motivation shouldn't be an issue. They should know they got to play their best game in order to win, and I'm hoping they do.
But do you think that's also, Coach Rathbone, a sign of a good defense, that you can have a bend but not kind of break mentality to it? I mean, you didn't obviously break. You gave up 0 points. But you talk about they get in the red zone a couple times, they drop a pass, but ultimately they didn't score.
Right, and we got 4 seniors on defense that provide a great leadership. They've done a great job leadership. Colin Hurd's coming in every now and then on defense. When we absolutely need something, a spark, he came in and did it the other night. And that's going to be our season. I mean, our senior, we're a young team, but we have a really good, we got 14 seniors, 8 of them play, and they do a really good job at leadership. Even the 6 that don't play, they're really good leaders. They're cheering for their teammates. They're not over sulking and pouting. So I think that's important for our offense and defense to have the leaders, those seniors, to continue to lead the way and let these younger guys kind of follow.
Coach Melton, you're a defensive guy. I think we all know that. I mean, you like offense too. You're the head coach, but you got a lot of background running the defense. The physical strength of your team, both sides, but let's talk about the defensive side, seems obviously more advanced than it was last year.
Well, I think the off season's been great, having a full off season with these kids. A lot of them were those 2020 sophomores, freshmen, and a lot of that stuff got canceled.
Right.
And so we're trying to catch, and it did for everybody. So it's not just us, but we've been trying to, work through that. And a lot of it's just being together in the off season, in the weight room with the confidence, and then getting to know each other better through that. And they've responded well. They continue to work. We're not getting off the bus. We're probably not going to impress a whole lot of people, but I think it's getting better, and we're going to keep working on it. And we've just got to fight.
Well, it's something and I've talked about this a lot, the respect that I think people have for you and the confidence you have to bring back a guy like Coach Webb. I mean, that's not easy for not everybody would do that, to say, and it says something about you and him. He was the head coach. He had some success there. This is your second year as the head coach at Franklin, the guy that you replaced, and he comes back and helps. That's pretty special.
He's great. I mean, if you know him, you don't worry about that. He's just that type of man. I mean, he's there. He loves Franklin. He loves those kids. He loves coaching football. And he gets to stay and do, and he has no ego at all. There's no issues whatsoever. It's like I said at media day. I mean, it's a no-brainer.
Well, Coach, I'm telling you, it says a lot about you too. It really does, that you have the humility and the confidence in yourself to allow that to happen, because a lot of people wouldn't.
Well, I respect him. I've coached against him and know guys that have worked for him, and I've gotten to know him really well over the last year and a half, 2 years.
Yeah.
So
it's different, isn't it, Coach Rathbone? I'm sure you guys saw it and go, what's happening here?
Yeah, well, I kind of knew.
You're trying to recruit him.
I was trying to get Webb over at Page.
Everybody tried to get him.
But that kind of shows how much Donnie loves those Franklin kids and how much he respects Coach Melton, for him to stay and to come back as an assistant just a year later. So, I mean, that says a lot about both of them, to be honest with you. It really does, that Coach Melton's willing to do that to such a great guy, and that great guy is willing to come back and work with another great guy. So, I mean, it says a lot, and it's special. And you see that, you don't see it often in sports, but it's around.
And I'll say this, as a guy that sits in the seat I sit in, I couldn't be prouder to see it. It's so, I think it's just neat. I really do. And I don't think we can say enough about it. All right, let's talk a little bit about tonight's game. You guys both talked about watching film. So I want you guys to tell me, as much as you're willing to tell me about tonight's game. Coach Melton, when you turn that film on and you say, okay, here's what's concerning me. It can be offense or defense. Here's what's concerning me about Page going into tonight's game.
That's how hard they play. I mean, they play with great effort all the time. And Coach Rathbone does a great job of getting those guys ready. They play with passion, with energy. Quarterback's a winner. I mean, he played against us last year. He's just a winner. You look on film, it's a kid. You want to coach all of them, but he's one of those you can look at and say, man, that kid. And they feed off of him, Receivers, obviously, they've got receivers that can get it in space. He can pull it and run it at any point. And they're big up front. So, I mean, just all of that put together. You tell back, like Coach Rathbone's already mentioned, he gets in space. He's tough to take down and tough to catch. He took one I don't know how far it was, but he run away from everybody. So
He did.
it's a good group. They play hard. So anytime you get that kind of effort from anybody you're playing, you're going to be concerned about it. You got to match it for sure.
How about you, Coach Rathbone? You turn on that film and you're like, man, that worries me when I look at Franklin.
Well, I feel like this year they're running the ball much better than what they did last year. I feel like the effort in the run game is there. And you know, they got a quarterback and can get the ball out and stretch the field vertically a little bit. That kind of worries me a little bit. So, you know, just I feel like these two teams, they in a lot of ways they mirror each other, especially in the effort aspect, and they just look like a bunch of kids that may not always look like football players, but they get out there and they compete and they get after it like football players. And I kind of like that.
Well, we're looking forward to tonight's game, and we appreciate you guys stopping by.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us for the Coaches Show. We'll see you next time.